I'm joined by Sourabh Gupta. He's a senior Asia-Pacific international policy specialist at the Institute for China-America Studies. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So how significant are infrastructure projects like this hydropower plant that we're seeing in Pakistan? I mean, really, there are pros all the way around benefiting the local community, the area, but also the Belt and Road Economic Corridor.
Oh, these are very, very important for developing countries. Developing countries have always lacked infrastructure, and they've lacked the finance to have that infrastructure. They've been banging on the doors of the World Bank for a long time to create a dedicated fund for infrastructure, but the bank never really got down to doing that. It was willing to provide technical advice, and therefore, when the Belt and Road came along, I think there were so many takers for it. China has shown what good infrastructure can do, the jumpstart it can provide to your economy when you're still at a developing country. And a lot of countries hope to replicate that in Asia and much far beyond.
And in this case, we're looking at restoring power to the area. Talk about the benefits of working together. And in this particular case, we saw local Pakistani workers being trained, working on the site. So it's providing jobs, but also working with Chinese counterparts.
It's very important, and actually that's also a very important point you raised. There was criticism earlier of Chinese projects in Africa a decade back that they involved bringing a lot of Chinese labor in because there were deadlines by which the project needed to be done, and they were more disciplined. But this also kind of grated on among locals because it's in their own country, and yet they could not find jobs to do these projects. And I think China has learned wisely that when it takes its infrastructure projects outside China, that it gets its managers along, but tries to depend as much as possible on local levels so that you can have deeper roots within the community. And I think this is a very good way to go.
How important is security along this Belt and Road route in this particular story? We saw the military there involved, stationed nearby. We saw the police. We saw local authorities really making sure everything was running correctly. Talk about some of the concerns and the reasons why they're needed.
It is very important, and particularly in Pakistan, and the Pakistani army is creating a kind of a dedicated outfit unit which will just be guarding Belt and Road related projects. It's very important because a lot of these projects, the nature of Pakistan's geography is such that a lot of these projects are not going to go through your urban centers. A lot of these connectivity projects are going to run through tribal areas, rural areas, which has seen issues of secession, rebellion, tribalism. The Pakistani state itself has a lot of issues it needs to deal with, and these get manifested then when development projects come out there. But the hope is that these development projects provide hope, and they will generate prosperity and development, and therefore be able to move many of these forces which are in favor of violent means of protest and channel them towards more productive directions. And I think that's definitely doable.
So 2 years since Belt and Road came about, how would you rate where it is at the moment, and how do you see this progressing?
Oh, I think it's got an inexorable dynamic to it. At first, people were wondering what it was. They understood what the Silk Route was and why it was called the Belt and Road. But now there's real understanding of where this fits in within President Xi Jinping's priorities, where Belt and Road fits in within global development infrastructure, and of course the consensus that it has generated even at international fora. So I mean, we have a lot of people jumping on this bandwagon. It's important that countries don't jump too far into the bandwagon to the extent that they don't take on too much debt that they cannot then repay down the line. That is an issue. But the fundamental principle of Belt and Road is this. If you believe in your countrymen, if you believe that there are growth motors domestically, China will provide the foundation with which you can jumpstart growth in your own country. And a lot of countries, that is what appeals to so many developing countries, because they feel they too can aspire and reach to prosperity the way China has.
All right, Sourabh Gupta, as always, we appreciate it. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.